Hey guys, what's up? It is week 43 already, so we're coming up to that year anniversary of this stuff. I got like 5 or 6 reviews for you. Jeremy's gonna sit in on a couple classics with me. Yeah, I got a contest drawing or for a pick a movie drawing. But I wanted to address, I did watch Friday the 13th Part 2. I probably won't review it, although I am going to review some classic titles in this video. For some reason, I've never wanted to review the Friday the 13th movies. I feel like they've been said, so many people have said so many things about them. They have those giant documentaries and everything. Same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street. Those documentaries are so immense and so impressive. It's like, what can I possibly say? But I did watch Friday the 13th, rewatch Friday the 13th Part 2. I really like the Friday the 13th movies. Enjoyed the hell out of it. If you guys ever want me to do something with like those kind of movies or those series, let me know. But I'm gonna hop right in this. The first review, the first one I'm gonna be tackle is Black Eagle from MVD Rewind Collection. Yeah. I had actually probably tried to watch Black Eagle as a kid a long time ago, and I actually never finished it. It was one of those ones. Me and my brother always used to rent all the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. We loved Bloodsport. We loved Lionheart. We loved Universal Soldier. Black Eagle always caught our attention because, hell, it's a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. We never finished it. This one actually also has Sho Kosugi in it, who's in a bunch of ninja movies. He has a cult following. This is after No Retreat, No Surrender, but before, or is it right after Bloodsport? It's around that time. Jean-Claude Van Damme in this movie is not this huge celebrity he became, huge action star that he did. But the story of Black Eagle is a doozy. It's a spy movie, it's a karate movie, it's a espionage movie. It's like a family movie at the same time with the kids in here. We have the Russians and Americans meeting in the, where was the location? Maltese. And there's some sort of weapon that they both want that crash landed in the water. So we have this kind of spy intrigue. Sho Kosugi is the American. Jean-Claude Van Damme is the Russian. They look very, and they both have accents that probably don't really fit with where they're supposed to be from. What follows is that there's 2 cuts on here. I watched the extended cut. A lot of dialogue and a lot of, covert stuff going on here and there. That stuff is kind of boring, to be honest. And there's some stuff it's fairly comical in here that shouldn't be. At one point, these bad guys, these goons that are hilarious looking, start following Sho Kosugi, and he leads them on a roof. And the way he gets rid of some of these guys cracked me up. Literally, one guy is chasing him and accidentally runs off the roof on his own. The scene was done in a way that it actually was fairly hilarious. The best parts of the movie, which are actually really cool, are when Jean-Claude Van Damme and Sho face off. They have a couple fights in this movie. They're really good. They're really well choreographed. You can tell both these guys know what they're doing. And that's the highlights of the movie. Unfortunately, there's not enough of it. There definitely is not enough of it. There's way too much of the spy stuff that's not as interesting. It's kind of clunky. There's lots of weird characters, lots of really bizarre, awful, off-the-wall dialogue, and especially delivered by people that their first language is not English. That's going on here. The movie, I would say, is like a C-. The release itself is like an A. It has so much stuff on here. It has interviews with the director, has interviews with the actresses and actors in here talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme, the writer, and they're very open about it, especially the writer. He talks about there was like 5 or 6 people and 3 writers actually involved with this movie. And you can see where it's going on here, and what Jean-Claude Van Damme added in at the last minute, and Sho Kosugi's kids added in, played by his real kids, added in the last minute. It has all these weird storylines that don't really come together very well, and it feels like 3 different movies. It needed more action, but the action that's in there is fairly solid. The director of this also did The Octagon with Chuck Norris, so it wasn't his first kind of martial arts film. Jean-Claude's okay in it. Sho, he delivers his dialogue very, very bizarrely. And actually, the acting and the dialogue is probably what hurts the movie the most. The script's also a little clunky, but it's if you like this movie, this is an amazing release, to be honest. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the film itself. I never finished it as a kid. We put it in 5 or 6 times and not finish it. But the features are ridiculous. You get 2 cuts in the movie. I'm looking right at the back. You have interview with Sho and people who's still alive, and the making of, interviews with the director, producers, the writers. So you get pretty much everything you could ask for as far as a release is concerned. The movie's not really my cup of tea. I wouldn't necessarily call it bad. It's just a lesser Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. And, it doesn't stack up with something like Lionheart, which is an amazing movie, which is coming from this MVD Rewind collection, as well as Return to Swamp Thing and a bunch of other stuff. They're releasing a lot of interesting stuff, and they've done a great job with their, the booklet, the poster in there, and the design of the covers and how everything looks. It looks damn good. It's just I wish I liked this movie more because it's such a damn cool release.
I'm hit! Rapid, where are you? I can maneuver, but I'm losing power. A
jet fighter is missing in the Mediterranean.
3 of those planes were carrying highly secret laser guidance systems. The best man for the job is codenamed Black Eagle.
We can only guess how much the Americans know.
We've already done a computer run. We put splashdown in a sector 3 miles south of Swata Point off Malta.
Now, it's an undercover high-tech conflict in an ancient land. There are no armies. There is no glory. This fight is one-on-one. It's combat in a world of double identity.
His name's Ken Taney. For all intents and purposes, a marine biologist from the University of Hawaii.
It is a world of double agents.
I know quite a bit about Miss Parker.
You must have me confused with someone else.
A world of double meaning.
It says I'm a priest.
A dangerous world. Exotic and sensuous. Where trouble is only a heartbeat away.
Dad, is someone trying to hurt you?
I'm doing a job for our country.
And they're bad men, aren't they?
They probably think we are bad men, Brian.
For both sides, there's only one rule. Win. Black Eagle. This is the new front line. Will against will. Force against force. One-on-one. Sho Kosugi, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Black Eagle.
We got one from Retrovision here. This is Deadly Jaws and Night of the Sharks. These are 2 Euro shark movies. This MVD release. I put this in and I was like, okay, let's check out Night of the Sharks first. And it has Treat Williams in it. It's Italian. It's by the director of Panic, which is crazy, which I just watched last week. And it also has Janet Argden and John Striner, along with Treat Williams and Anthony Fargas. So it's got a nice little cast, especially for an Italian shark movie. Kind of a weird, bizarre crime caper movie, too. Janet Argden is very strange because 2 weeks ago I reviewed Eaten Alive, she's in that, and then a week ago I reviewed Panic, she's in that, and then I put this in, not knowing she was in any of the movies when I started them, and she's in all of them. I completely forgot. She's like an actress that just keeps popping up. Yeah, Treat Williams is this guy that lives off the beach with Anthony Fargas. They're partners. They kind of run these little schemes. Treat Williams' brother rips off the wrong people. John Striner is a gangster that sends other gangsters after him. To get something, a tape that is incriminating to him. Treat Williams dives, he swims, they do all sorts of stuff, and there's these sharks that are really, really weird. They are always after him. He kills a couple of them, but they're always after him. They're rubbery, and they always attack his ship. The movie's absolutely ridiculous. There's these weird moments of humor, but then there's horrific moments of violence and shark attacks. It is weird movie. It's always entertaining. It's really goofy. There's some action at the end here. It turns into like a stock, like surviving a game thing at one point in the movie. There's a decent amount of action. John Striner's always great. I really like seeing John Striner. He pops up in Tenenbaum, Cut and Run, a slew of other things. He's in tons. And Caligula, he's in a lot of movies. Very familiar Italian. Well, I think he was English, but very famous in Italy. But yeah, he's really good in this. He plays the head baddie. The movie has it feels like a TV movie. It legit feels like a TV movie, the way it's shot, the way it's edited, everything about it. Treat Williams is having fun. There's just some unintentional humor in here where I absolutely laughed out loud. There's some shark attacks, which is so weird. It's just such a mismatch of stuff that you don't think would ever go together. I would check it out. It's fun. It has a memorable theme music as well. And on this one, there is a special about John Striner. This guy goes, he's having fun with it. He talks about John Striner's entire career going over Italian cinema, and that's great. I love seeing that. He has fun with it. It's funny, and you learn a lot about John Striner.
James Ziegler has double-crossed the Mafia. He's on the run.
This will be the last time you have to pay me.
But there's no place to hide. Now his brother has something they want.
$2 million worth of diamonds.
And enough evidence to put them inside.
What do you think?
It could be dangerous.
He's ready to take them on.
You're signing your own death sentence, David.
On his own ground.
So why don't you take off?
Playing by his rules. For the highest stakes. What started as blackmail is now a private war. Night of the Sharks with Treat Williams, Christopher Connelly, and Antonio Fargas. Night of the Sharks.
The other movie on here is Deadly Jaws, and this one is this one I believe it's got to be Spanish, from the way it was shot and everything. And on paper, this sounds great. Again, these guys are after buried treasure. There's a bunch of double crossing. They're on a ship and they're surrounded by pirates, and of course there's sharks involved and double crossing and poisonous fish and sexual relationships going on the boat. But it comes off as a slog. It's boring. It's just. It just keeps it repeats itself a lot. It doesn't go anywhere for long periods of time, and again, the dialogue's a little awkward. The characters are a little miserable. It's just not particularly well made. Both these look fairly solid, I guess, for what they are. They look like somewhere in between a DVD and a VHS. They are in widescreen though. As for Black Eagle, that looks great. That sounds great. But yeah, these two, they're not perfect. They're maybe like something like they're better than a really bad VHS rip, but I wouldn't go as far to call them DVD quality. Maybe slightly below DVD quality, but they are in widescreen. But they're I believe it's a cheap price point, and to see two Euro shark movies, Night of the Sharks is worth your time, especially if you like cheesy Italian movies. If you don't, I would avoid both of them. But Deadly Jaws has a lot of potential. It just doesn't live up to it. The next one here was made in 1969. This is from Cult Epics. This is called Obsessions. Yeah, I had not seen this movie. I had not really heard much about it, but I bought it. I was interested in it. It's supposed to be very Hitchcockian is how they explain it. It takes place in Amsterdam, which I loved. It is very Hitchcockian, and therefore it's made like this late 60s. So it reminds me more of Argento's early stuff than even Hitchcock, but they're similar in itself, like Bird with the Crystal Plumage, that kind of stuff. We have this this guy training to be a doctor, and there's a hole in the wall in his apartment, and he decides to look in. You know, that's typical Hitchcockian fashion, you know, looking and see, and he sees something that he's probably not supposed to see. He becomes obsessed with what's happening next door, and it appears these girls are being drugged and molested, and it's very weird. His girlfriend is a reporter, and she's onto some sort of case, and they both kind of mix together, and they start working together to try to figure out what's going on. The setting of the movie is great because it takes place in Amsterdam. It's highly sexual, especially for 1969. It's a strange movie because most of the actors are speaking in English, but their dialects aren't always proper. You learn this more so in the special features with the interview with the lead actor. He's saying, I was trying to speak in English, in American English, but I learned my English. He's German. I learned my English, or he's from Holland. I can't really think. But I learned my English in Britain, so it has that accent. So I'm trying to throw that accent and do an American accent. He's got to be a highly intelligent guy for that. But I was impressed with the sexuality in the movie. I was surprised for what it was. And I was also very surprised that they ended up getting a Bernard Herrmann score. Obviously, the composer for many Alfred Hitchcock movies. And more importantly to me, he did the score for Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese. So there's that going for it. So that's very interesting. On the special features on the disc, they do this whole storyline of with the director that he actually knew Scorsese. Scorsese actually worked on the script on this movie and how he got Bernard Herrmann, how he introduced Bernard Herrmann to Martin Scorsese so he'd do the soundtrack for Taxi Driver, which is a really great story. There's some interviews on here with the director and with the lead actor, and I believe with one of the lead actresses as well. So it's a nice release. It isn't a full screen movie, but I believe that's probably how it was shot. The ending of the movie is very memorable. I like the ending quite a bit. I think it's kind of almost cruel in its way, but justified what happens. I like movies that take place in Amsterdam because it's a city unlike any other. And this has got some nice shots. It's got nice music, obviously, although they are just, tracks that Bernard Herrmann had in his back catalog that he picked in certain spots. But that's really cool. And the story behind the movie is even cooler. And for the time, it's just something that was definitely pushing boundaries and pushing an envelope and made a nice, tight thriller with some sexuality and some violence that wouldn't typically get made at the time, and it has a very rich history of how it got made and who it met up with who, and it's an important place in cinema just for who was introduced because of this movie. Okay, we're going to talk about two movies that everybody's heard about a million trillion times, but why the hell not? Especially the first one because the release is amazing. We're going to talk about George A. Romero's 1968 zombie classic, Night of the Living Dead. And if you were to ask me, I would tell you that this is not my personal favorite horror movie. It's in my top 5, but I would say that it is the best. Especially, I love independent cinema, always have growing up, and this is the... I've seen somebody say that George Romero was like the king of regional filmmaking. Is that what they said on the Oscars or something? He was. He pretty much was the inventor of the independent American movie. And Night of the Living Dead is probably the most important horror movie of the 60s, to me at least. This release is by Criterion. Everybody knows that at the time, Night of the Living Dead wasn't copyrighted properly, so it went in the public domain. So years and years, we never had a good release of Night of the Living Dead. And it's just so cool that Criterion stepped up and was like, we're putting out Night of the Living Dead. It's like, I know that everybody knows Night of the Living Dead is the best, one of the best horror movies ever made, but that Criterion puts it out, it just makes it official. It makes it official. If that makes any sense. Like it's like, no, now Night of the Living Dead's officially. It's on Criterion. Everybody knows. Even haters have to be like, what's on Criterion? But if anybody doesn't know the story of Night of the Living Dead, it's about 7 individuals who get trapped in a farmhouse by corpses. It's based off of a nightmare George Romero had and the Richard Matheson book I Am Legend, which is a great, great story. A novella, I say. But vastly important, black and white, gritty, shot in 35mm in black and white with a wonderful cast. Way ahead of its time, but also felt like it was from a time gone by. It feels like a 50s sci-fi movie, yet when it comes to the social issues and that kind of stuff, and just the grittiness and the kind of documentary style with the news, it's ahead of its time. So it's past its time and ahead of its time and completely original all at the same time, and being inspired by stuff that came before. So
it's a 50s movie that harkens into the 70s, I would say.
And what's beautiful about Night of the Living Dead, I would say there's 3 or 4 horror movies that I would say that I would say 3. Night of the Living Dead, I'm not saying that they're the same caliber. Last House on the Left and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that just basically said, goodbye fun gothic horror. Hello American 70s nihilistic, realistic horror movies. And the 70s was all full of nihilistic stuff. You had Bonnie and Clyde in 67, then Night of the Living Dead, and then you had a Wild Bunch, and then it's just hell. Hell, I mean, the best movies ever made from the 70s American film. But, I think that Night of the Living Dead was one of the catalysts to that. Yeah. Do you just want to... We could talk about Night of the Living Dead forever. I talked a lot, but do you have anything to say?
Oh, you already talked about Night of the Living Dead?
No, I'm just saying I just talked about it for 10 minutes.
I'm pretty certain anybody watching this channel has probably already seen it.
And if you haven't, just don't waste your time on me. Waste your time on Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
The special features on here are amazing. They have the old commentary, the elite commentary with George Romero, I believe. I actually listened to my DVD when I was doing something to check that out. But there's also a lot of great stuff on here. I'm actually going to look at the back and cheat so I can remember some of the stuff. Sorry, guys. I know people won't be. There's dailies and stuff. There's a work print on here, which is nice. There's interviews with a bunch of the people that are still alive. They have a nice little thing they did with the zombies. They find 10 people who played zombies in Night of the Living Dead and interview them about their experiences. I love the commentary with Romero and how they talk about a lot of the stuff, because Romero and almost his entire crew, not everyone, they just have this sentiment they're yeah, we did something, and and they just don't have this big ego. You can tell they're good people, and they're generally trying to go out and make something good, and they do. There is something on here with Dwayne Jones, and Dwayne Jones, who played Ben, he died fairly young, if I remember, maybe in his 50s, 60s or something. But he didn't like talking about the movie. Not really? Like he was ashamed about it. He just got tired of answering the same questions. And they have an interview with him on there, and it's just he just seems so not ungrateful, but just so over it. He didn't want to talk about it. I mean, this is only a small part of his life, and he was just in a role. But he gives a truly great performance. The picture quality is immense. It looks so good. I noticed scenes that I never noticed, like the gore scenes. I was like, "There's gore in this?" "There's gore in this?" I never noticed it before. Some of the stuff actually looks fairly gross, like the hand and whatnot.
Yeah,
yeah, that looked nasty. Or when they're hitting with the hammer on the hands. And you did notice that some of the things, the back shot, they do it in a lot of the zombie movies, but you'll see they look more mannequin-esque when they got hit. You could tell they were mannequins. And I never realized you actually see the naked zombies' boobs walk by. I was like, what?
Oh yeah, when they're walking up to the house.
I remember the butt. I remember seeing a butt, and then I didn't know. I didn't recognize the boobs there. I never noticed that before. I've seen this movie 100 damn times. I love the interactions between Ben and Cooper too, because Cooper's right, which is a genius thing to do. And this movie is so it's mean, kind of mean-spirited in a way. It's very mean-spirited, what happens at the end and everything that happens. And Romero would do that later on in his career. At the end of The Crazies, you can't get much more mean-spirited than that. But it also is so emotionally, well done, and it feels like it's not being mean just to be mean. It's being mean to prove a point. And I like that when it's there to prove a point. When it's just just to be mean for the hell of being mean, it just doesn't work. But Night of the Living Dead feels like it has something to say, and it feels like it proves a point when it's with this cruel. And Romero in general does that.
I think that one of the scariest things to me in general are broadcasts.
Oh yes.
And with this, and then even the next movie that we're going to talk about, they both utilize broadcasts and emergency broadcasts or anything kind of slightly scary spoken over radio is going to get to me.
Oh, it's that thing when you hear the public broadcast.
Yeah, that emergency testing system.
Terrifying.
Or like a cable station sign off.
An Amber Alert.
Yeah, I'm like, we're done.
Kids won't know what a cable sign off is nowadays.
Do we have cable anymore?
I don't think.
I mean,
they
we don't
off.
have cable, but
I don't think they sign off anymore, do they? Don't they go 24/7 now?
I don't. Well, I think there was like that period of point, like after like the fourth repeat of the news cycle at like 3 a.m. There's like the 5-minute cable sign off where they show a bunch of pretty pictures of the national anthem playing, then infomercial. And I'm just gonna blow my brains out.
Yeah,
I swear
terrifying.
to God, we're dropping the nuke.
I know we're not even talking about Night of the Living Dead anymore.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
That scene where they broadcast through your dreams. This is not a dream. This is a broadcast. Horrifies me.
Yeah.
And that I love in Night of the Living Dead that the news reporters are basically saying it too. They're like, the bodies of the dead are returning to life, driven by an unknown force that enables the brain to keep functioning. Like they can't believe it.
Yeah.
And the comparisons to the remake, I like the remake. I don't think it's as good as the original. I do like Tom Tolles and Tony Todd's performances are really good in it. But I think that it's really impossible to top the original. And there's just not much I can say. I love this movie. It's such a perfect movie. Like the sounds that the Karen makes when she kills Helen in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ. And there's only one like major mistake. I know there's a lot. It's amateurish, but there's a mistake. There's a jump cut that Romero points out, and that they cut out for time. That he didn't do it. The producers did. And it's like when Harry and Helen are talking in the basement. There's a quick cut. It's like, well, I cut it fast enough where they're on each other. It's like whoever edited it didn't realize you had to cut away to something to do. It's just very bizarre. But it sets up the zombies. The way we know zombies, flesh-eating zombies. They call them ghouls in this movie originally, not one term used zombies. I think zombies for the first 4 Dead movies was only said twice. In Dawn of the Dead, it was said once, with those bay doors, there's going to be 1,000 zombies in here. And in Land of the Dead, zombies, man, they creep me out. So Romero didn't usually use that term.
Yeah, they don't say it in this.
No, they're ghouls.
Do they even say ghouls, or does it only show up in the subtitles, ghouls?
They say ghouls.
They actually say ghouls?
Yeah,
okay.
The ghouls can be brought down by...
That's right, okay.
They say it a bunch, and Sheriff McLennan is so great. That line where he says, beat them or burn them, they go up pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Or, are these things... Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up. That can sum up Romero's whole hate for fast zombies.
Mm-hmm.
They're dead. They're all messed up. They're slow, man.
Yeah.
They're slow. But, man, I could literally talk about this movie. I could sit here and just talk about it all day if you let me. The character dynamics between the wife, Harry and Helen, is great. You could tell they're on the rocks and they're arguing, and it's just their arguments are great. And I'm like trying to compare the original to the remake, which one I prefer on the how the car blows up. I think it makes a little bit more sense in the remake, actually, how the car blows up.
How did they shoot off the gas?
Yeah, in the remake, yeah, and the gas flies, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a top-notch movie. It has so many familiar faces, and all these guys would have careers later on. A big chunk of them: Bill Heinzman, John Russo, and you know what I'll say about the writing? It feels that Romero was less of a sci-fi guy when he went on. Like he was more, thriller or horror. Action stuff, but I think that the sci-fi elements, John Russo wrote this in Romero, I think those come more from him. I would say. They feel like they would come more from him. Because he did write the Return of the Living Dead 2 part of it originally.
The sci-fi comes from Russo?
Yeah.
Yeah,
would you say so? Because I don't ever see sci-fi in Romero.
No. Not at all. It's more paranoia than anything.
Yeah, more paranoia. Mm-hmm. So I would say that the sci-fi elements and that old kind of horror 50s style comes from Russo. Maybe. Possibly. But, it's just the one that started it all. It started my favorite genre of horror movies. I love zombies. I've always loved zombies. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. Those are my favorites. Even Return of the Living Dead. Return of the Living Dead plays off. It's not in a Romero movies, but it plays off the Night of the Living Dead so well and so genius.
Well, I mean, you look at Return of the Living Dead, and you couldn't have Return of the Living Dead
Night.
Without Night. I mean, you couldn't have Zombie without
Dawn.
Dawn.
You
Yeah.
couldn't have anything like this. And Romero said in the commentary, he's like, I thought we were creating a new monster, but apparently we just reinvented zombies, stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, Romero is just such a cool guy. And the stories with, you know, how they basically cast an African-American actor, like there were like, people were like, oh, you were so brave to cast an African-American actor and do that at the end. It was so brave. And right, they heard that Martin Luther King got assassinated on the way with the film. But Romero and his company, they weren't being brave, they just weren't racist assholes. They were just like, well, he is the best actor. He showed up. We cast him. We just didn't. We didn't think anything of it. And that says more to me than somebody who would be like, well, we're going to cast him because he's black. They just didn't even see the skin color. They just cast him because he was the best actor in the room. The idea that basically played into the fact that he got shot at the end is just like, I guess you'll say lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And the next movie's lightning in a bottle too. They're both lightnings in a bottle.
You know, I a lot of times with like Romero, you know, and I've said it maybe with his more so with his later films, like the messages and like the analysis of Romero I don't think was present or intentional on his part until 30 years removed from his original trilogy. He's doing it, and I think it's more hand-fisted.
I think it was subconscious originally, and I think subconscious enough is better. I think the Crazies was on purpose.
Crazies was on purpose.
And Dawn of the Dead, I think, is on purpose too, to a certain extent. But I think the more his career goes, it becomes more conscious. But in Night of the Living Dead, it was his most pure.
Yeah.
I know Crazies was early in his career, but I mean, maybe it's just that when I get older, I see that I'm like, Romero's a smart guy. I see what he's doing here, and I never saw it before. But I remember when I was younger, like 12, 15, I was just like, oh, he's just, you know, it's all subconscious. But the older I get, I don't think it necessarily was. But I do think Night of the Living Dead was the most subconscious. I think that these were a lot of happy accidents and just Romero's genius subconscious taking over and just living in that environment and, you know, and understanding it and making a great movie out of it. But, you know, the best independent horror film ever made, Night of the Living Dead. And the next one's probably the second best independent horror movie ever made, if you want to call it an independent horror movie. But I've talked a lot. I know I cut you off some, but is there anything else you wanted to say about Night of the Living Dead?
I don't know if there's... No, I think we covered it up pretty well.
All stock music, too. All library music.
Is it really?
Yep. And he just picked the cues right. And just a wonderful movie with a wonderful, wonderful release. 2 discs, actually. One has a bunch of features. One has 2 commentaries on it. Just the best. The best ever.
The killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Probably be a lot more of them as soon as they find out about us.
All persons who die during this crisis, from whatever cause, will come back to life to seek human victims.
I'm telling you, they can't get in here.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
The next one here is another classic. I don't know if I should call these segments the Classic Corner and then make a little video for them, or just do them when I feel like it. But this is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Another movie that makes argument for the best horror movie ever made. Those are probably the two. Night of the Living Dead, Texas Chainsaw, I'd say. I'm not hearing it. Those are the two that are the best. If it ain't them, I ain't hearing it. I just mean, you know, Texas Chainsaw is not my favorite movie, but I think it's a bona fide classic, and I think it's probably the first or second best horror movie. I think Night's the best, but then Texas. Man, boy, oh boy, I haven't seen Texas Chainsaw in a long time. It's been like at least 7 years since I rewatched it, and maybe longer. But this movie always scared the shit out of me, always kind of bothered me in a lot of ways. And, you know, it's just something about being, you know, isolated and hearing that chainsaw go off that you're just, oh no. It's just horrifying. And my cousin felt the same way about this movie. It's just scary. And Tobe Hooper, again, what they say is just made such a crazy, weird movie. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre follows a group of kids, young people out to see if their grandfather's grave had been turned over because a bunch of people's graves had been dug in and the bodies had been put in really disgusting ways and grave robbed. And they go to their old hometown area where their grandfather's house was, and they go through and they decide to make a day out of it, stop by a couple places. This town is surrounded just by very bizarre, very odd people, and they run into the horrible, horrible family, and most of them get horribly butchered. That's pretty much the plot of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Tobe Hooper originally thought he was making like a comedy.
It is a comedy.
Nah, but it's more scary than anything.
It is scary.
The humor in it feels real, like how people would act. But what Tobe Hooper does so well is when, by the time, if you guys haven't seen this, go watch it. We're probably going to spoil it like Night of the Dead. Yeah. By the time you see Grandpa, who shows up, who is this completely unrealistic character, they had set up the bizarre and weird, absurd stuff with other characters, like the strange guy washing the car, or the drunk man laying on his back spouting weird things. All the characters are so weird, and then when you actually see the hitchhiker and Leatherface, they're just so weird. By the time you see Grandpa, who shouldn't be real, shouldn't be alive, it's fine. You're caught in this nightmare world, and everything seems like it could actually happen at that point, even if it is kind of surreal and absurd and terrifying. What's up?
They introduce Grandpa first as a corpse, and then later they bring him back, and then he's real.
Well, he's...
Or alive, I guess I should say.
They never show if he's dead or not. You just assume he's dead.
Yeah, because there's a skeleton next to him.
Yeah. But the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a freaking masterpiece, made in '74, made in Texas, based off of some stories that that Tobe Hooper had heard about Ed Gein from Wisconsin, about somebody making... you guys know the story of Ed Gein. He's basically a crazy, crazy criminal, not necessarily a serial killer, but a killer, who dug up a lot of bodies and made a lot of weird things out of corpses, furniture and whatnot. But the production design in Texas Chainsaw Massacre is amazing. The way it's shot is amazing. A lot of these creative shots, and they only had 40 feet of dolly to use. And they managed to do all those tracking shots that are wonderful. I love the editing style because you'll go from wide to really close at points. It's just really terrifying, especially when you see the hitchhiker run up to the car. And then when you see Leatherface, it's wide at points at the end when they throw the wrench and it cuts up close. They were talking about that in the commentary. It's like, you're right. These editing techniques are very different, very strange. You can just feel the heat in this movie. You can feel the disgust in this movie. You can feel that the actors, if you listen to commentaries, were irate. They were not happy. They were miserable. And it's coming through on screen. Mm-hmm. It's hell. That movie's hell.
He made it in 7 days?
No.
No?
No, that's not true. They planned for 2 weeks, but it became a 4-week shoot.
It became a 4-week shoot.
Yeah, they lost a week of shooting, I think, is what they said in the commentary. They lost a week of shooting because they had a bad lens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was one because I think that there's like a times, or I'm not trying to like talk down the movie or anything, but like when the girl runs out in the ending and he's chasing her and all the truck stuff happens, in the end, like she was there overnight, but by the time she gets picked up by the pickup truck, the sun is setting again.
Well, that was oh, you mean the whole movie took place overnight? I thought you said the whole movie was shot in 7 days.
No. Yeah, I always read that the movie was shot in 7 days.
Oh, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Maybe the main stuff was. Maybe it's 7 weeks. But it takes place overnight. They drive through the day.
Yeah, they take place overnight.
And she runs through night, and then she's in the house at night, and then by the next morning, she busts out of the house.
But by the end of the movie, when the truck is speeding off and she's in the back of the pickup truck, and Leatherface is like, twirling around. It's in a sunset. You noticed that?
No, I didn't necessarily notice that, but they definitely tried to make it look like it was the morning.
Oh, okay.
But maybe it wasn't filmed at that time.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I didn't understand what you were trying to say there. But there's just like every shot in this movie is super iconic. From the windmill turning to every shot to the under the bench that she's sitting on with the dolly track. They talk about it. There's just so many amazing moments, and the deaths in here are so fast they feel real, and that it's just bothersome. The first time you see Leatherface and the music cues, there's not much music in the movie, but when the cues are there, they're horrifying. The first time you see him, it always made me feel super uncomfortable. uncomfortable. And the way that Gunnar Hansen plays Leatherface, he plays him like a mental patient, and he plays it so well that it's horrifying. And obviously everybody knows the story that Gunnar Hansen went to a mental institution for 2 days and said, my goal was to make sure that people didn't know if I was a visitor or a patient. And it shows. And you can tell that him and Ed O'Neill, who plays the hitchhiker, put so much goddamn work into their characters. Jim Seidow, too. They all put a lot of work into these characters. They're there, and you can tell that they put so much work and psychology into these characters. And Ed O'Neill, just scary. He's like one of those guys that you think is really like this. But all of them. And Jim Seidow, like, I love how they talk at the end of the table. They're talking to Toby Hooper's talking about, see his face, because he doesn't really like it, but he can't stop from getting caught up in the mania of the whole event because he wants to impress Grandpa. So he's like getting caught up and then feeling bad about it, then getting caught up and then he can't control himself. He's a very odd character, and he's a very odd actor too. He reminds me like Clu Gulager or something like that. Like you said, he's like a Clu Gulager War Notes type, and but not, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Not War Notes is handsome compared to him. I don't think anybody's called War Notes handsome, but yeah. But just amazing performances here. And what the lead actress went through, Marilyn Burns, man, she went through hell. Franklin? A lot of people hate Franklin.
I like Franklin. I love
Franklin.
He's my favorite character, next to Leatherface.
And the hitchhiker.
I liked everyone, actually.
Everyone's great. Even the 4 characters, the 4 kids and Franklin, there's 5 of them. They're all great. And the hitchhiking scene from that moment on, like, you see this weird, bizarre town, and you know what? I want to say that, like, King of the Hill based all their odd characters off. Like, just
staring into
side,
the sun.
Yeah, there's right when they pull up to the gas station, the guy who cleans off the car is just looking right into the sun. He's staring into the freaking sun. That kind of stuff is the humor in Texas Chainsaw, and you don't see it at first.
Right.
You're horrified. You're horrified. And, you know, when you would go into a weird, bizarre place like that, at first it would be kind of funny to you, unless you were there. Like, when you left, let's say, like, you went through that town, you never bumped into Leatherface, a hitchhiker. Maybe they'd be familiar with these types of people. But, and you go home, you'd be like, man, that asshole was staring right into the freaking sun. You'd be laughing about it all day, but when you're in it, man, it's not funny. It's just terrifying.
Right, yeah.
Like, it's so weird. It's such a bizarre movie, and it's so freaking unique. And the movies that tried to, like, the sequels and everything, and the remakes and everything, they're just not as powerful. Or the genre. Why? You said you hate movies like this.
I don't like the genre. I had never seen this from beginning to end. I've always caught, like, 10 minutes here or there. And yeah, every genre, like, every movie based off of this movie, or that was inspired by this movie, I'm not going to watch.
Which is weird. I mean, I like them, but it just, like, when you go back and you watch the classics like Night of the Living Dead and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you realize why you're a horror fan. You got to sometimes remind yourself why you love this stuff. And I just watched Friday the 13th Part 2 again too. So you got to remind yourself why you love horror movies sometimes after you see a lot of the stuff you just don't particularly care for. And it's funny to me, like, even the newest horror movies that I love, they're just not comparable to this kind of stuff. This stuff is gold. You know, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I just can't say enough good things about both these movies. And I think, say what you want, Tobe Hooper's a master. I know he made... People will be like, well, you know, he only made a couple good movies. It's like, one of the best movies ever made is better than 10 mediocre movies by a director. I mean, like, come on. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is amazing. Poltergeist is a good movie. Not a huge fan of Poltergeist, but it's a great movie, no doubt. Funhouse is solid. I love Eaten Alive. Eaten Alive is a lot like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, too. Eaten Alive's the one with Neville Brand, and he runs that hotel, and he has the crocodile, and he feeds all the people to the crocodile. You haven't seen that one? I'll show you that one, because it's a lot like Texas Chainsaw.
What's one of the Farmer Vincent guy in it?
That's Motel Hell, which is basically a spoof of Texas Chainsaw, which is a great movie. Love that movie. But Tobe Hooper has that kind of, like, why is everybody screaming and crazy in his movies? Like, everybody's weird.
Yeah.
And the same thing with, like, Eaten Alive. It's like, why is everybody screaming? Stop screaming. The Texas Chainsaw goes by. It's brisk. It's 83 minutes. It feels like 10. It's just a beautiful, crazy nightmare that surprisingly shot well, acted well. Everything about it's perfect. Minimal music, but everything in it, the music cues they use is just great. There's 4 commentaries on this release. I don't have the 4-disc edition, but that's all that's on there. I listened to the commentary with Hooper and Gunnar and the Danny Perry, or what is his name, the cinematographer.
I know when the way Leatherface kills, like, when the people walk into the house and he's like, and he runs up and grabs them. He's not killing, I think, because he wants to kill. I think he's killing out of like nervousness, and
he doesn't want to get in trouble. Like
he doesn't want to get in trouble.
You were watching this and you were saying, "Man, I love Leatherface because everything he does is so he doesn't get yelled at."
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And then when he's dressed as the woman, when he's doing the woman, the psychology and stuff like that, and he's like.
Right,
and he's yelling at him, and Jim Seidel is about to beat the crap out of him. He's like, "Did you let anyone get away?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah." And he already wanted to beat the crap out of him so bad. Then he's like, "Well, you messed up the door." And he starts beating him right anyways. It's just like the relationship between these guys is great, and jumping out of a window feels so real. Because if somebody's chasing you with a chainsaw, you're going right out that fucking window. I don't care.
I love the fact that she did it twice.
Toby Hooper actually said that in the commentary. He said, "I think this is the only movie where the heroine jumped out of a window twice."
Yeah. Like the first time it happened, I was like, that was pretty cool. Like I would do the same thing in this situation. When she did it the second time, I thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
I think that's where the humor comes in.
Yeah. Like to me, it was like a legit kind of comedy, and like there was some like terrifying, horrible things happening in it, but like everything said and done, like. I never felt that anybody was in any real danger, even though they died. I don't know. It felt like a comedy to me. It didn't feel like a spooky movie.
It's horrifying. It's terrifying. There's some funny moments in it, but I think every movie has humor.
Yeah.
And because like we get to watch it from the outside, like you could see some humorous moments. But
yeah.
But I mean, the only movies that don't have any humor are Christopher Nolan movies, and I'm just not a fan of those movies. But
well, I had seen the remake in theaters, and I don't remember it having
that kind of humor. Well, Lee Ermey's lines are so disgusting and fucked up that some people might laugh just from nervousness. And I think there's a lot of nervous laughter happening here. Like when you're around like the hitchhiker, you're like, what? Like, because he just makes you nervous.
And I wonder if that's why every movie inspired off of this that I've seen. It's like they lose that comedic element, and therefore it just becomes kind of like
or it just becomes a little too stupid, like
a little too stupid, a little too flat.
Well, Motel Hell is a straight up spoof, and I love that movie. And like Blood Salvage is a little goofier, and I don't love. It's a fine movie, but it's just impossible to compare to Texas Chainsaw. You know, it's impossible.
And Texas Chainsaw and Psycho are Ed Gein, right?
Yeah, and so is Silence of the Lambs.
And Silence of the Lambs too.
And Deranged and 3 on a Meat Hook.
Which one would you say is your favorite based off of the Ed Gein?
I would say that Deranged and 3 on a Meat Hook are not in the caliber of those 3 movies.
Okay.
But Deranged is good, though.
Deranged is good?
Based off Ed Gein, those are all like 5-star classics, but Texas Chainsaw, followed by Psycho, followed by Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
But Psycho's close.
Psycho's pretty good.
This Psycho's amazing.
I never saw
Silence of the Lambs. Never saw Silence of the Lambs.
I saw like the last 20 minutes. Every movie I ever watched, I only caught like 20 minutes on USA Today.
You're embarrassing
at like 3
yourself.
in the morning.
You're gonna make me look bad. Well, I don't have anything else to say about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre except that it's great and it looks great in 4K. It's an amazing looking movie. Picture quality is top notch. I love the It looks like a Western, but it's also saturated, but not saturated enough where it has no colors. It's colorful. I love how it looks. The night for night shots look surprisingly good, especially on a budget, and they're scary as shit. The murders in here, the deaths, are horrifying, bothersome. Don't like watching these people die. Although you said you felt nothing for them, but you're a sociopath.
Yeah, you know.
But you're Ed Gein. That's all I have to say about it. Classic.
Franklin made me upset.
How he sticks his arms out too.
Well, I just like him. I
love that they argue because they were playing brother and sister, and I guess Franklin was in character on set the whole time.
Really?
So everybody hated his guts. Oh my god. He refused to get off character. So when they were like done, like they were talking about it on the commentaries, and they were like, and when like Franklin was finally done with it, they're like, I thought you were like that until after the movie, and I realized you were not an asshole. Like Gunnar Hansen said that he's like, I couldn't stand him. He's like, the only person I talked to was Ed O'Neill, because I didn't talk to any of the other characters because he stayed like crazy.
I know Gunnar Hansen went on to do other things. Did anybody else go on to do anything?
I think Edwin O'Neill was in Future Kill. Marilyn Burns was in Eaten Alive. She popped up in a couple other things. Jim Seidel was in the sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. A lot of the other people worked in movies, but I don't think they were big-time actors. Like the production designer did a lot of stuff. A lot of the crew went on to do very successful. Gunnar Hansen was in Mosquito and Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, but Edwin O'Neill was in Future Kill. What else was he in? They all pop up here and there and stuff.
Like, I wonder where they find these people. Same thing with Night of the Living Dead. Like, are they local people?
I think that in Texas Chainsaw, a lot of them were kind of like theater actors around the town. And I think that in Night of the Living Dead, they were a lot of theater actors as well. And some of them were producers and whatnot, and especially the extras. But they were local actors and actresses.
Because they do an amazing job.
Oh, yeah.
And then you never see them again. They're like, huh.
That's strange that it works like that sometimes.
Yeah.
And nowadays, there's just so many people that want to be actors that don't take it seriously, or actresses. I take it seriously. But you guys have a good one. The pick a movie of the week was picked by Nick Mua. He picked Jack Goes Home. It was on Amazon. It's within a few years old. I had not heard of this movie. It has Rory Culkin in it and Lynn Shade. So I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. And I put this in, and it started off. It follows the plot of a kind of a highly intelligent. I want to say he's more of a introverted, kind of snarky, but really intelligent and witty young man, I'll say, whose father dies in a freak car accident, and he has to go back to his home and take care of his mother. And when he gets home, his best friend's there. He starts to get involved with this homosexual neighbor, which is a really weird plot point. And his girlfriend's back home, and she's pregnant. So it's very complicated, very bizarre. And lots of weird characters. Right when he gets home, you know, something's not right. Lynn Shade is not right. She is actually tremendous in this movie, and it's really nice to see a person who is in so many small roles get a nice, juicy role to bite into. I know that she's had kind of this, big renaissance for the career, and she actually never stops, so that's great. But she's actually getting more recognition, and I love seeing that because Lynn Shade's a good actress, and she's great in this movie. And Rory Culkin's actually really good, too. I was very impressed with his performance. It's very intense, and I gotta say this movie has a low rating on Internet Movie Database, 4.9, and I will say it's probably only due to the very ending. I don't think that the very ending fits exactly with the movie, but besides that, there's lots of twists, there's lots of turns, and there is a ridiculous amount of disturbing stuff. So much disturbing stuff that it actually bothered me, and it scared me for a second. I got scared, which I couldn't believe. There's a reveal in this movie where this character starts digging into his past, and he realizes something's wrong with his mom, something about his dad doesn't add up, and something with him doesn't add up. He starts listening to these tapes that he's found in the attic, and it's his dad telling him, you know, I love you, and then when it's his dad reading him like stories to go to bed, but after he's asleep, he says, if you ever listen to this tape, go in the attic and find this. And you're just like, that's so off-putting, so awful. And what's worse than dying? What's the things that scare you is finding out that your whole world that you know is not actually the way it's supposed to be. Something's different, or these realizations about someone that you loved, and you find out that they're a completely different person, and not everything is as it seemed. It can be terrifying, and that's what this movie goes. It plays with the mind. It's definitely playing with mental breakdowns and here and there, and who's telling the truth and who's lying, and are these people here, are they not here? And there's a scene where it's video footage. It's kind of shot in like a found footage style, and you just get a glimpse of something off to the corner. And that scene, I'm not going to spoil it, is awfully gut-wrenching. It really bothered me. And I didn't expect it. I expected this to be your pretty much your generic, oh, here we go thriller, but it's something about somebody going away from their home and coming back after being gone for so long that intrigues me. It's just something that's bittersweet and also, you know, it's unlike any other feeling, I think. And that's just opening up all these old memories, because there's people over time, and especially adults, they get jaded. And then there's only some things that can bring that, has like a direct, like a spot to your core, to your soft tissue, to the inside of you, you know. And Jack Goes Home, it gets to that. And I was really surprised with some of the stuff that they were doing in here. And it gets real dark. The homosexual thing, the neighbor, I don't understand what's going on with that. It doesn't really fit with the storyline. And I wish that the girlfriend was in the movie more than just Skype conversations, especially she's pregnant. I think that the way they did that was just a way to shoehorn in more despair in the movie, and I don't know if it works exactly. This is actually directed by Thomas Dekker, who is an actor who is in a bunch of stuff. He's in Kaboom. He was in Laid to Rest, I believe, Part 2. He's in a lot of stuff if you look him up. And I think he did a damn good job for what it was. And I think Rory Culkin did a really good job. And Lynn Shay did a great job, too. I was impressed with it. I didn't expect much from it. Hopefully, I didn't hype it up too much. And they do the thing where there's these things that crawl very strangely that always kind of freak me out. I would compare this on the same level of something like Fractured, which was a nice thriller that had Vinnie Jones in it that not many people talk about. I would put it in line with Fractured, which I thought was really good too, and no one talked about it. But that's Jack Goes Home. It was by Nick Mua, who picked. Adam Weber won the next one. He picked Road to Perdition, so I'll be on that next time. But Jack Goes Home. It's on Amazon Prime. Check it out.
I heard a sound. A wind. A strong wind. And then a whisper in that wind. Jack.
My dad. He died today. My dad's dead.
What?
Like, I'm already at peace with it. It's weird, right?
I had to come out here. You're my best friend.
We better start packing.
You're going home. Can I tell you something?
Please do.
I always thought this house was haunted.
Mom? Mom? I'm so sorry, Mom.
Well, that makes no sense. You're sorry you had nothing to do with it.
I was just being nice.
Well, you don't need to be nice. None of this is nice.
Your father really loved you. I am so sorry.
Jack. You asleep, Jack? When you're ready. In the attic. When you're ready, Jack. You go up to the attic.
What is he talking about?
I have a feeling that you wouldn't like what you found up there.
Something isn't real.
Something really bad is happening.
She wants to make me insane. I'm not.
Jack, what's in the attic?
I'm sorry.
What are you saying, Jack?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go away! Go away!
I'm sorry.
Okay, guys, let's do the pick a movie here. What do we got? If you want to do a pick a movie, go to the Screaming Toilet page or leave a comment on YouTube or anywhere on Facebook. For the pick a movie, I'll find your name and I'll enter you. Let's see who's going to win this one. We got James Grimmer. Congratulations, buddy. Hopefully you pick something good. Okay, let's get into the Q&A. Okay, James Grimmer, are there any movies that have stuck with you long after you've seen them? Have they influenced you anyway? Yes, tons of movies. Lots and lots of movies. Like, movies that bother me or movies that just are completely embedded in my head forever. There's like 5 or 6 movies that I just know every quote to. Like Return of the Living Dead, I know everything. How are you going to burn all those fuckers? There's 100 of those. 100? You know, the brain. I hit the fucking brain. I've seen that movie a million damn times. What is it? The cadaver sounds sore. And Tombstone either. I see a red sash. I killed a man wearing it. And then there's stuff like the music to Cannibal Holocaust is forever embedded in my head. Scenes are forever burned in my head. When Warren Oates grabs that machine gun in Wild Bunch and screams, that scene sticks with me. Every time I see it, every time I hear it, I just get chills. When that scream, man, it sticks with me. You know, or just people's faces in movies. Lots of movies stick with me. Lots of movies influence me. They influence my whole life, to be honest. I know I'm gushing here. I didn't even realize I was going to do this, but I'm pretty much just a smorgasbord of the movies I love. So some days I'm nice, some days I'm mean. It depends what movie I'm channeling. John Wilhelm, keep up the good work. You've been in the YouTube horror community for a while. How much has it changed from when you first started making videos until now? It's changed immensely. At first, you know, you feel like it felt like there was a real close community, and then I noticed that community kind of went over to Facebook. A lot of YouTube things changed, and a lot of people left. A lot of people stopped making videos. A lot of people grew up and just left. You know, got burnt out, got tired of it, got tired of haters, got tired of spammers, whatever. But they seem like they went over to like the Facebook groups and stuff like that, and that's where most of the people are having these discussions and things. And I remember some old videos, you know, like you do a collection video, you could get, you know, sometimes they boom up to 30,000 views. Not that I care about the views so much, but now, you know, I range from 500 to 1,000 views a video. It just depends. It's not as strong as it used to be, or maybe my videos aren't as good as they used to be, or it's just not that many interactions anymore. But it's changed. There was that phase with the sick, twisted fucks where everybody was all the extreme movies. I'm glad that's over. I mean, you can only watch so many extreme movies before you get burnt out. And extreme for extreme's sake is never pretty good. Is never not really good to me. It's my opinion. But I do like extreme movies. I love some extreme movies, especially when there's a reason. Like art extreme movies, or just there's a reason for the extremity. I dig it. But for the sake of being extreme, Nick Mua, any film that you've considered overrated when you were younger but are into now? I'm sure there's tons of them. You know, I'm trying to think movies that I didn't. You know, like I said, I used to see all the John Wayne movies on TV, and I was fine with them. And I didn't really have a deep appreciation for them, but now I do. Who should have the final word when the film is released? The director or the studio? Directors like Del Toro, Ridley Scott have occasionally railed against idiot studio execs. Well, really, I mean, if you hire a director to do a job, just let him do his job, right? But every once in a while, the studios or the producers are right. Look at George Lucas. The original Star Wars, they're great. You know, somebody's probably telling Lucas, you're gone too far. With the new episodes, George Lucas is probably untouchable. He probably did what he wanted. Those movies, I don't really like them. And it's definitely, it feels like somebody just didn't tell him that that's stupid. There was nobody there. When you surround yourself with a bunch of yes men, or you can have total freedom, sometimes you fail. Like that movie Inferno. That was about basically a director who had total freedom who failed. Or what was it? Michael Cimo's movie. Cimo, was it Heaven's Gate? Is it Heaven's Gate? Yeah, that movie, he had total freedom, big budget movie, and it failed. And I don't know, I have never seen the movie, but it failed, and it pretty much changed the studio system forever. So I don't know, but I would say that usually the director should get the last look at it. If you had to make a sales pitch for Batman in under 1 minute, what might that look like? Okay, geez Louise, it is a psychological movie that explores the darker parts of the human psychology, obsession, you know. And it's a very gray movie, a lot of gray areas, and I think it's pretty cool. Ben Miller, is there any film you've been wanting to see forever but had no luck finding, or anything that took forever to get a release at all that ended up being very good? I know Angst. I remember that movie I wanted to see for a long time, and I actually got an import, and I ended up downloading one, put subtitles on it, yada yada. And then it was released wide, and I have it now. But I was pretty good when I saw it. As a kid, there's always the checklist. Natural Born Killers, you got to see it when I was real young. You know, I Spit on Your Grave, and you see these, and you're like, these are actually good. That's one thing I do miss, is you hear about millions and millions and millions of movies when you're young. You're like, 9, 10, you shouldn't be seeing this stuff. And then when you actually do see it, it lives up to the hype. The older you get, the less something's going to live up to the hype. Maybe you're just jaded, or maybe that your expectations are too high, or most likely you've just seen a lot more stuff. So, and there's some stuff I wanted to see for a long time. Revenge of Billy the Kid, is that the one with the evil goat werewolf thing? I wanted to see Revenge of the Billy Kid. I know there's a DVD, and I don't want to download it. I wanted to see Dead Meat, the 1993 one. Is it SOV, or I think it's 16 millimeter, where the guy feeds people to his piranhas. I wanted to see that one. There's a handful of movies like that I've wanted to see that I really couldn't find. The Demented movie with Jim Van Bebber. I don't know if they're going to be any good or not, but I'm interested in checking them out. Okay, let's hop into the update. We got Escape from Alcatraz. Good price. Clint Eastwood. Only seen it on TV. Road to Perdition, which I got requested to review, was the pick a movie. Punisher Warzone. I had this on Vudu, but I love this movie. I know, right? I don't like the one with Thomas Jane, but I really like that Punisher. It's gory, it's fun, you know, it doesn't take itself seriously, but it's not stupid. It's fun. These I picked up because I had the DVDs, but I was listening to the Moods, 22 Shots of Moods, and they did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, and I love the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as you obviously know, but who doesn't? And I was really hard on these when they came out. I was just a hater. I was like 17, 18 when they came out, but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and I think I was just unfair to these movies. They gave them good reviews, and I was listening, and I was like, you know what? I don't know why I disliked them, because I was being a hater. When you're that age, you're a hater. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, the unrated version. This is a Canadian Blu-ray, but I think the American Blu-ray is rated. Then we have The Gate 2, which I always liked as a kid. It's been a while, from Shout Factory or Scream Factory. Then we have Concrete Jungle, which is a prison movie. And I listened to that damn Pure Cinema podcast jail episode, and I was like, I need some jail movies now. And Concrete Jungle was there, and Short Eyes from Scorpion Films. They Elric talked about this one. They also talked about Escape from Alcatraz. So, yeah, I had Short Eyes on DVD, but it's an import. And then we have The Sect, which is a Michele Soavi movie. This is a great movie that a lot of people don't talk about. It's probably his least talk about movie. It has Herbert Lom in it, who's always great, and who's it? Thomas Arana, I think you say his name. We have also a DVD of Psychopaths by Mickey Keating. Keating? Is it Keating? Let me see. Yeah, Keating. So that is my update. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the guest reviews. Let me know if you want to see some, like classic corner, or see me tackle like the Friday the 13th movies, because I'll do it. I like those movies. It's just that I don't know if you guys actually want to see any more of that. But yeah, I'm Mr. Parka. You guys have a good one, and thanks for watching.